this is Frode and welcome back to Actualize Notes TV. Today we have another great book, Essays, first series by Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's the second book in the collection of Emerson, Essays and Lectures, already featured Nature, Advertism and Lectures. You can check out that one if you haven't already. Now, Emerson kind of reminds me of more and more of Abraham Maslow because of his insane intelligence of pretty much everything, and he is kind of a blend between James Allen, the author of As a Man Thinketh, his poetic style, and the Stoic philosopher Seneca's straightforwardness and simplicity. So, in the book, he touches upon subjects like heroism, character, Emerson we're talking about. Heroism, character, work, genius, love, friendship. Yeah, that's a lot. So if you're into any of that, I think you'll dig the book. And I'm having a good time going through his 1100-page 5-book collection. For now, let's look at my 5 favorite ideas from the book. First one is work. Emerson says that if we try to go around doing all the things that we aren't really very into any longer, aren't really interested in, and if we try to do too much, we are scattering our force. And then we won't know who you are. If you start scattering your force, trying to do everything, and just heap on more and more work. But what we want to do is we want to prioritize. Because then, Emerson says, but do your work, and I shall know you. So you gotta do your work, and do it well. And by the way, in his book Drive, Daniel H. Pink talks about the same subject. And I think the story goes like when John F. Kennedy was having a meeting because he had some troubles with his purpose or something. And a woman said to him that all the great people in history have had one sentence. Lincoln had his. He preserved the Union and freed the slaves. Franklin Roosevelt had his. He saved us from a depression and helped us win a world war, or something like that. That begs the question, what is your one sentence? Not a muddled paragraph, and by gosh, not a whole book. What is your one sentence that you will be remembered for when you go off this planet? Mine? It's simple. He helped people actualize and created wisdom. Nothing more is needed, and that's the work I'm doing right now. And by the way, Tom Rath comes to my mind. In his book Are You Fully Charged? He says that if you try to be great at everything, you diminish your chances of being great at anything. So, what is your priorities? Steve Jobs also talks about the same. He says choose 1 to 5 products that you'll focus on, discard the rest. And this can also go for goals and what we'll focus on in our life in general. Second big idea, genius. Emerson tells us that every single genius must come with 2 gifts, the thought and the publication. First, the thought. You have this amazing idea, or a thought which is kind of like a revelation, and it says that you are left stupid with wonder. It's just so awesome that the whole world seems to have missed something. And it says that this is a deep truth coming to your mind. But there's also a second part, which is you have to make it available through publication. Or else, how else will people see your idea coming into fruition if it's just in your mind? Adam Grant also talks about this in Originals, where he says that any original person must start with creativity, having a novel idea, this revelation. But then, the more important part comes. They have to buckle down and do the work to make that vision a reality. Are you? If not, how are you ever going to fulfill your second part of the equation of being a genius? There is, again, the thought, important distinction, and there is the publication. In his book Do the Work, Steven Pressfield tells a great story about how it took him 17 years from the first time he was 99.9% done with his first novel until he finally got himself to ship. Because I'll be honest with you, when I do these videos, I do have to be honest, and I do show all sides of my own nature. People might think I'm weird for doing this, people might talk behind my back, but I don't care, because this is what I've chosen to do my work. Now, thought publication. Simple. Do you have anything you need to publish? Third big idea. Hero. Who is a hero? Emerson tells us that the hero is the person who does what's right. Truth is enough for that person. Whether it will be talked about by other people, praised, or if they will get rewards. They do it anyway. They have this very clear distinction on doing on being as much as possible rather than seeming to be. Think about it. Would you rather be a world-class athlete, a top performer in any field, and really have their skills and strength? Or would you wear their clothes and just have their medals and money and other things? Wouldn't feel as good, would it? Be and not seem. It's a great quote from Emerson that I have to write it down. Be and not seem. This is echoed by all people who talk about character, by the way. And in his book, Moral Letters to Lucilius, I think it was, Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, tells us that a dwarf will still be short, though you put him on a mountain. And a statue will still be tall, though you place it in a well. Because what they are is more true than what they seem to be. Are you being, or are you seeming to be? Next big idea, hardest. Anytime I come upon sentences in books like the hardest thing in the world, or the hardest task is, then I get curious. And Emerson's line is, what is the hardest task in the world? To think, he answers. Because, yeah, how often do we really think for ourselves and not only copying what the society tells us, the laws? And that reminds me of something from Steven Pressfield in his book, The Warrior Ethos. He says that the hardest thing in the world is to be ourselves. Who are we? Our family tells us. Society tells us. Laws and customs tell us. But what do we say? Abraham Maslow also comes to mind in his book The Farther Reaches of Human Nature. And he talks about the self-actualizer. And it goes something like this. Self-actualization can only... Self-actualization means that there must be a self to be actualized. Most of us, most of the time, listen to the interjected voices of our mothers, our fathers, of society, of the elders, of authority, but not to ourselves. So, are you thinking for yourself? Who do you want to be? Are you listening to yourself? And all this comes down to my favorite quote from Emerson ever. Trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. Alright, I think we'll come back to that one later in this series. Last big idea, action. Action? Emerson goes on about a guy named Epaminondas, who I believe was a revered ancient person, who probably took a lot of action through wars and fighting or anything like that. But Emerson says that he's perfectly comfortable even if people will say, Epaminondas acted. Why do you sit still? Since anything that is good is not dependent upon whether it's taking a lot of action or if you're sitting still. They can still be as true in themselves. It's a little bit hard to wrap around our heads, because this view of action is not really often talked about. It's the first time I've seen it from this perspective on the 100+ books I've read in personal development. That is not to brag, by the way. And but it says that things that are good don't always need to be, you don't always need to be a busybody, because many people are busybodies trying to seem like they're taking a lot of action, because they're calling all the time, they're sending messages, they're sending emails, they're tweeting, getting push notifications, they're going all of these seminars, traveling around the world. But Emerson also says that I find taking action to be good, and I also find sitting still to be good. Because if Epaminondas had lived in this age, he probably would have done just as Emerson. Sit still. Not go all anxiously around, flying all about. So, do you think that you need to make all this noise and seem like you're taking a lot of action? Not like the hero who is rather than seems to be? If so, then how about getting your priorities right? By thinking about your one sentence, such that you can be a genius, get your thoughts, your revelation out into the world by publication, being rather than seeming, and embodying that the hardest thing in the world is to think, to be ourselves, and to listen to ourselves. In other words, trust ourselves. That is a quick and somewhat meandering look at Essays, first series by Ralph Waldo Emerson, part of his 5-book series, Emerson, Essays and Lectures. Now I hope you enjoyed. I'm looking forward to dive right back into the 3rd book in the series. For now, what is the one idea that you enjoyed the most, that really resonated with you, that inspired you to take some action? And what is the one small first step you can take towards embodying it more in your life starting today? Alright, thanks for watching. Look forward to share more wisdom with you soon. Have another awesome day. See ya.